Rick was a funny cat. He couldn't find his kids.
Did you have a good dinner? Excellent. Well, that's good.
I lived in Venice and near an area called Dogtown.
I don't think I've ever made an album other than for the last few years that didn't have cocaine, and I was snorting it.
Genius and a bit unpredictable was Locked In.
A gifted musician, a mystical man, and a true spokesman for my generation.
Where it's about 7 blocks from California Avenue to Rose Avenue.
And we'd stay up for weeks making these albums, and we were doing like 3 or 4 albums a year.
My friends in the community, I had a lot of, different kind of friends.
She's special because she's the only one in her family that was kind of like that.
Some of the albums off it because the whole band did it. Everybody but maybe one guy in the band. The whole band.
I was around a lot of people that I saw doing a lot of stuff. A lot of friends, I had Mexican friends, African American friends, black people. It was just, Venice was like a melting pot.
It was just her. She was the black sheep.
When I stopped snorting and started smoking, then that's when my addiction skyrocketed.
A lot of wild stuff to themselves, and really hurt themselves, hurt their gifts.
It's like a million to, the difference is astronomical from
The wildest love story in funk isn't the purple fantasy of Prince and Apollonia. It's the fire and gasoline saga of Mary Christine, Teena, Brockert, and Rick James. And the darkest part of it was buried with her. Right now, we torch the gossip, crack open sealed court files, and load you with Teena's latest news that flips industry power on its head. One lawsuit from a 5'1" powerhouse rewrote contract law and left label lawyers checking the exit signs. Teena's scandal update includes secret engagements, hotel fires, and the night she literally flushed Rick's cocaine down a green room sink before saving the session with a single take. Did you know she raised Rick's son while juggling seizures caused by a falling picture frame? Or that she hid a gold ring inside a busted guitar amp as collateral for studio time? By the end, you'll question every dreamy music video romance you've ever streamed. So settle in, because the facts hit fast. Which reveal do you think will drop your jaw the hardest? Type your guess now and see if you nail it. Remember, commenting early could land you a shout out in our next deep dive. So don't hold back. Mary Christine, Teena, Brockert showed up in Santa Monica in 1956. Tiny lungs already rehearsing riffs. Locals called her neighborhood Venice Harlem because mariachi horns, storefront gospel, and Motown singles all spilled onto the same sidewalk. Her dad laid freeway concrete. Her mom flipped fixer-uppers. And the mixed Italian, Portuguese, Irish, Belgian bloodline gave Teena vocal cords that could bend like rubber. At 2, she belted Banana Boat Song. At 8, she juggled guitar, bass, and congas. And by high school, she fronted an R&B garage band that kept getting the power cut by irritated cops. Teachers tried casting her as a sweet ingenue, but she puffed a joint backstage, got suspended, and wore it like a varsity letter. That rebel stripe carried her into Santa Monica College, where daytime English lit classes paid the bills while every nighttime open mic within bus range sharpened her stage knives. Demo cassettes stacked on her dresser, but white male executives kept asking the same stale question: how would a tiny white girl sell soul music? Fed up, she crashed Motown's Hollywood office in 1976 with her scruffy band, plugged a Fender into a reception outlet, and sang until Berry Gordy left his meeting to see who was bleeding through the walls. Gordy signed her on the spot, but only her, not the band, and then parked her in development hell while producers debated whether to package her as bubblegum pop. 2 years crawled by until Rick James, fresh off the hit Mary Jane, prowled the studio corridors hunting fresh voices. He heard Teena hammering a gospel-tinged piano riff meant for a Diana Ross demo, kicked open the door, and saw 5 feet of red hair channeling Mahalia Jackson over funk chords. He volunteered to produce her debut immediately. Motown execs panicked. Their only white female signee was now linked to their wildest black rock star, but they needed a chart spark, so they rolled the dice. Rick and Teena cut Wild and Peaceful on a Caffeine and Sunrise schedule. Motown hid her photo on the sleeve. Terrified radio would freeze out a white funk singer. The single, I'm a Sucker for Your Love, cracked the R&B top 10. Audience jaws dropped when a televised gig revealed her race, and she laughed that the music introduced her better than any glossy headshot. Underneath the bright debut, Motown's bookkeeping still treated her like a sideline. Budget advances shrank, marketing spend got rerouted, and studio time depended on Rick's clout. She wrote feverishly, fusing funk bass with storefront gospel chords, determined to prove she was a novelty act. By 1979, the stage lights were hot, the chemistry was hotter, and the next chapter, studio romance, cocaine drift, and legal grenades, was already loading in the chamber. Teena's latest news was simple. Keep writing, keep singing, and guard every rough mix backed up. The studio romance between Mary Christine, Teena, Brockert, and Rick James sparked faster than stage pyrotechnics. Inside Motown's blue carpeted B room, they stacked harmonies till sunrise, swapped guitar licks, and shared too many lines of Rick's white powder to count. One night, after punching a final chorus, Rick slid a pawn shop sapphire ring on Teena's finger and swore she'd be Mrs. James by fall. 2 weeks later, during a radio interview, he laughed that he was a lifelong bachelor. That whiplash hurt, but it poured gasoline on creativity. They carved behind the groove, mapped early drafts of Square Biz, and cut the bones of Phi and Desire, while cheeseburger wrappers and real boxes piled waist-high. Rick introduced her to his daughter Ty and little Richard Jr. and called Teena family for life. When Rick's mother lost her house in a fire, Teena quietly paid for furniture and clothes. Every gesture cemented a bond fans swore would last forever, but each gesture also deepened the financial knot tying her fate to his. By late 1979, the white lines on the coffee table grew longer than the track sheets. Rick's recreational dabble mutated into an hourly ritual, and every time the stash ran dry, he vanished, dragging the horn section on marathon coke hunts. Sessions froze, budgets ballooned, and Motown accountants quietly billed the overages to Teena's artist account, labeling them shared production expenses. She discovered the charges while hunting for royalty statements and nearly fainted at the comma pack total. Teena yelled, the accountant shrugged, and Rick promised to make everything right after he chased the next high. She tried tough love, flushing a fresh bag of cocaine down the sink. Rick retaliated by disappearing for 48 hours. He returned with blistering guitar solo, recorded it in a single take, collapsed in the control room, and muttered, "Paid in full," before passing out. Touring magnified every fault line. In 1980, the fired-up caravan hit the road with 3 buses, 2 tractor-trailers, and 0 spare nerves. Hotels erupted in smoke when Rick or his entourage flicked ash in trash cans. Buses got impounded for unpaid tickets. Union fees vanished. Teena often joined selected dates to boost ticket sales. She coaxed Rick on stage when he was too wired to remember lyrics, tucked little Ricky into makeshift bunks, and schmoozed promoters so the crew could eat. Her own set soared, but each night ended with another disaster report and another hidden expense. Motown's answer was simple. They debited every hotel repair, every impound fine, every overtime bill against her future royalties. Teena's latest news inside the tour bus was a running total she kept in a spiral notebook, circled in red and growing like mold. Between sound checks, she dove into California Labor Code. California Statute 668. No personal services contract may bind an individual for more than 7 years. Other artists grumbled, but Mary Christine Teena Brockert carried the paperback everywhere, highlighting clauses between vocal warm-ups. She drafted questions, cornered attorneys, and refused to accept the idea that Motown could shelve her forever. Her break came when the label blocked the follow-up to It Must Be Magic unless she surrendered full creative control, and recorded a duet album with Rick. She refused. Motown shelved her tapes and froze her paycheck. That was the final trigger. Teena filed suit in Los Angeles Superior Court, naming Motown for violating labor law and demanding immediate release. The filing itself stunned the industry, but the hearing detonated like TNT. A judge ruled that Motown's contract breached California's 7-year rule. The decision, forever cited as the Brockert Initiative, forced labels to choose, release new music or release the artist. Teena walked free. Motown walked away with a migraine, and Teena's scandal update ripped through trade magazines like breaking news of bank heist. Epic Records moved faster than paparazzi on red carpet night. Within weeks, they inked a deal, handed over a budget, and watched Mary Christine Teena Brockert unleash robbery, an album that mapped her breakup with Rick in ruthless detail. Shadow Boxing detailed the night she confronted him and another girlfriend in a hotel hallway. Fix It blasted his flimsy apologies. The LP cracked the Billboard Top 20, tour sold out, and critics hailed her queen of post-disco funk. Teena's latest news at that moment was simple: freedom pays. Rick's arc flipped. In 1984, paramedics dragged him from his mansion after an overdose and minor stroke. He survived but emerged with a limp and slurred speech. Legal issues snowballed. Kidnapping, assault, torture with a hot crack pipe. Multiple victims sued. Criminal courts offered plea bargains, but civil courts hammered him. Royalty streams that once bought gold-plated limos now trickled into settlement accounts. During those prison years, Teena recorded Star Child, propelled Lovergirl to number 4, and enforced a strict no-drug policy backstage. She carried a laminated copy of the Brockert Initiative in her purse and flashed it like a badge whenever a promoter tried funny math. Mary Christine Teena Brockert didn't gloat, though. When Rick left prison in 1996, a shell of his former self, she invited him on stage for a Detroit club appearance. For 4 minutes, the old electricity returned as a duet on Fire and Desire. Rick sobbed backstage, thanking her. Teena helped him secure a small publishing advance. Within months, he slid back toward the pipe. Their final reunion came at the 2004 BET Awards, a nostalgia-heavy hug under stage lights. For months later, Rick was found dead at home. Preliminary reports listed heart failure. Toxicology confirmed cocaine. Life still owed Teena a few curveballs. A heavy picture frame crashed on her skull, triggering seizures. Weeks later, a commercial refrigerator tipped on her shoulder, adding nerve damage to the mix. Doctors prescribed painkillers. She developed dependence, then staged her own cold turkey detox by locking herself in the studio and burning incense. Hallucinations visited. She later said Rick's ghost pushed her to hold on, and she poured the struggle into the song Emerald City, written in a single, bandaged night. Teena's scandal update hit headlines when lawyers for Rick's assault victims tried to garnish her royalties, arguing she had been part of a joint criminal enterprise. The judge threw out the claim and praised her cooperation. By 2010, she was touring relentlessly, swallowing analgesics after sound check just to stride on stage. 30 cities into a winter run. She collapsed in a Pasadena hotel room 2 days after Christmas. Coroners listed natural causes. Fans translated it as exhausted heart. In the decade since, her latest update has shifted from chart rankings to legacy management. Her estate now licenses masters for film and television, funnels a slice of proceeds into music scholarships at her old Venice Rec Center, and still enforces the Brockert Initiative anytime a label tries to lock down a young artist with endless options. Even now, negotiation classes cite the case. The paperwork remains under seal, but the precedent stands untouchable, proof that Mary Christine Teena Brockert swung harder than any contract shark. Zoom in on the lawsuit, because that single docket reshaped modern contracts. Before the Brockert Initiative, labels could sign an act, shelve the project, and wait until the artist either quit or went bankrupt chasing freedom. After the ruling, executives raced to amend every long-term deal on the books. Several veterans admit off the record that the decision cost the industry millions in lost leverage. Mary Christine Teena Brockert never bragged. She just printed the court's 7-year clause on laminated cards and handed them to opening acts. That's why her latest update at law schools today is a guest lecture series funded by her estate, ensuring young musicians learn the statutes before signing anything. The finance flip is another chapter worth dissection. Between 1980 and 1985, her Motown statements showed negative balances, yet by 1990 she owned her masters from Epic and ran Midnight Magnet Publishing, collecting sync fees every time a sitcom needed fun guitar or a video game wanted neon-colored bass lines. While headlines obsessed over Rick's rehab cycles, Teena bought duplexes near Venice Beach and rented them to film students, converting tour cash into steady passive income. When Napster scared labels in 2000, she was insulated by real estate and publishing checks. Anytime journalists chase a fiery quote, she shrugged, pointed to a ledger, and said, "Numbers talk, feelings fade. One last ripple, the mentorship network." The scandal file on Teena usually spotlights illegal fireworks, but her phone was a quiet hotline for newcomers like Beyoncé, who wanted to understand publishing splits, or Anderson .Paak, who thanked her on stage for explaining recoupment math. She might roast executives on record, yet she never charged a penny for advice. Ask yourself, would your favorite superstar even own their masters today? That legacy is still shaping deals. So what does it all mean when the amps cool and the lawsuits collect dust? First, it proves Mary Christine Teena Brockert didn't just survive chaos. She engineered victory inside it. Most artists talk about self-empowerment. She notarized it with state seals. Teena's latest news in business circles isn't her chart peaks, it's her contract language. Even label veterans admit they quote the Brockert Initiative while negotiating rookie deals in 2025. Think about the ripple. Every unsigned singer uploading demos tonight owes a silent debt to that court date. Second, the romance angle stays messy on purpose, and that's healthy. Fans love tidy narratives. Hero, villain, redemption. Reality is layered fudge. Rick James burned with talent and addiction. Teena carried both love and resentment like twin amplifiers. Which side speaks louder to you? The fireworks of fire and desire, or the cautionary tale scribbled between hospital visits? Drop your tape below. The comment section turns scholarly when opposing angles collide. Third, look at money. Rick earned mountains, spent ozone, and left lawsuits. Teena earned less, spent wisely, and passed royalties to scholarships. That split sparks eternal debate. Is art purer when attached from finance, or does ownership equal freedom? Slide your answer in the thread and back it with facts, because speculation never moves a needle here. Fourth, the gender factor cannot be brushed aside. In 1981, the idea of a white woman suing Motown sounded like career suicide. She did it anyway. 40-plus years later, women in pop cite her precedent before walking into boardrooms. The scandal file on Teena is a masterclass in saying no so effectively that a judge echoes you. Let's talk about stagecraft for a second. Ever notice how Teena commanded arenas without pyro cannons or million-dollar LED walls? She used pocket-sized pauses, lung-shredding ad-libs, and fearless eye contact. Meanwhile, Rick preferred smoke machines and leather jumpsuits. Two approaches, two outcomes. One artist gained charisma from minimalism. The other tried to outflash his own reputation. Which strategy would you pick if you had 15 minutes on live TV? Let the community know. And what about resilience? Picture that motocross helmet she wore in the vocal booth after the picture frame accident. She tracked harmonies while fresh stitches itched under foam padding. If that doesn't recalibrate your bar for dedication, nothing will. Post your toughest creative hurdle and how you punch through it. Top 3 stories get pinned. Last note, many viewers think the scandal file on Teena ended when the court stamped a judgment. Not true. Every time a label drafts a new 360 deal, lawyers check the Brockert ruling to make sure the term can survive scrutiny. So the update is still downloading year after year, line by line. Your voice here keeps Teena's victory echoing through every playlist. Ready for the geeky nuggets that crank collectors go feral over? Mary Christine Teena Brockert recorded her first demos in a Venice duplex laundry room using a Tascam 8-track perched on a vibrating washer. The kick drum was literally a paint bucket. She later snuck the raw tracks into Motown sessions, layering those gritty loops under big-budget strings. And nobody at the label noticed until after the gold plaques arrived. Her latest update in studio folklore is that the washer sample still exists on safety reels locked in Iron Mountain. Hidden detail 2, the pawn shop sapphire ring. Most fans know Rick gave it, but few know Teena soldered a tiny brass loop inside her cracked Fender amp chassis and taped the ring there as temporary collateral when session invoices stacked up. During mixdown, she pointed to the amp and joked, "That rock is earning its rent." Hidden detail 3 sits inside Casanova Brown. Every courtroom date she endured with Motown is encoded in the second verse. She swapped street numbers for rhyming syllables and used month counts as beat rests. Legal stenography disguised as melody. Pull up the docket, play the track, and the dates align like teeth on a zipper. Hidden detail 4, the infamous hotel fire. After Rick torched his sofa while freebasing, Teena doused it with a pitcher of ice water, burning off her eyebrows. She penciled arches for 6 weeks, calling them workman's comb brows. One of those burnt hairs now lives laminated inside a vintage tour laminate auction for charity. Hidden detail 5 is Pure Gear head candy. The bright bell and square bit sounds like a pricey rolling patch, but it's actually a slowed-down bicycle bell from Teena's childhood Schwinn sampled through a loaner emulator. She refused to swap it for a cleaner tone because, in her words, that bell rings the truth. Hidden detail 6 involves a motocross helmet. During her seizure recovery, she wore the helmet in the vocal booth to protect fresh stitches. She double-tracked the helmet taps as percussion on Emerald City. Producers tried muting them. She pushed faders back up and kept them. That helmet now hangs in the rehearsal space of her daughter Alia Rose, inspiring new artists to record fearlessly. Hidden detail 7, a 4-second phone tone sequence buried at the end of Out on a Limb. When decoded, the tones dial the payphone outside Motown's original Detroit office. The line still rings. Leave a voicemail if you dare. Collectors swap the recordings like baseball cards. Hidden detail 8 is philanthropic. Before charity merch was cool, Teena added a clause to every tour contract funneling 2% of gross to fund beginner bass lessons at the Venice Rec Center. The scandal file on Teena often skips this, but the clause survived every renegotiation and still bankrolls instruments for kids who can't afford rental fees. Hidden detail 9, her personal backup system. Long before cloud storage, Mary Christine Teena Brockert kept duplicate masters in baking soda boxes under her mother's bed. When an earthquake cracked her studio wall in 1994, those tapes were the only copies left undamaged. Legacy never sleeps. Here's the short takeaway after this long roller coaster of verifiable facts. Mary Christine Teena Brockert turned heartbreak, debt, and actual falling appliances into platinum grooves and a legal firewall that still guards playlists today. Rick James left cautionary scorch marks. Teena left a blueprint. If Teena's latest news inspired you to study your own contract fine print, hit like right now. If Teena's scandal update lit a fire to protect your creative rights, share this video with a friend grinding in the studio tonight. Drop a comment naming the one hidden detail you never saw coming. And pin your city so we know where the next wave of independent legends is forming. Subscribe and ring the bell because our next deep dive unpacks another unsung deal renegotiation that flipped millions. Yes, millions. Remember, every click pushes this community further into the rooms where deals get signed. So, are you co-writing your freedom anthem or letting someone else draft the chorus? Speak now, because tomorrow's headline could read, "Viewer in the Comments lands dream contract." Mary Christine Teena Brockert proved one person can move an industry. What will your footnote say? Stick around and watch your own legend start tracking up charts.